Hello, and welcome to a very exciting episode of the Cubicorn Games podcast. My name is Dustin Morbido. We are going to be doing something really cool today, and joining me for that cool thing, as always, Lorraine Morbido is here.
I am, in fact, not the cool thing.
No, not quite.
Not even close.
We've got two cool people talking about their cool thing. Part of the team behind Rightfully Beary Arms is here to talk about that game's launch. It is out. As of the time you're hearing this, that game is out. You can buy it on Xbox and Steam. And joining us to talk about it, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I would like to say that I do think Lorraine may be the cooler one, but I may be biased here. Anyway, I'm Chris. I'm a dev on Rightfully Beary Arms.
And I'm Garrett, and I do the music on Rightfully Beary Arms.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time. It's always it's been fun to chat with you and hang out whenever we got the opportunity. Mm-hmm. It was one of the highlights of our first PAX East was probably that night. We just ended up shit chilling and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Likewise.
And yeah, it's an exciting damn time, right? The game is out. People can play it. 1.0 is here.
Baby's first launch.
Actually, at the time that this recording gets released, you could play it tomorrow.
Oh, is that true? Is it
the 27th? Yeah.
Well, see, I
but
can.
Some special keys get released the 26th.
Okay, I got you. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Then I'll say that was our original plan. It will be out the 27th. This podcast will.
Yeah, no, we do Wednesday.
Yeah, I misunderstood. I think I misunderstood you originally. No, that's fine.
Got it. If the podcast is out the 27th, we can
talk about
things.
that other thing. We'll get there. All right, perfect. Yeah, because it can come. It's going to come out when you guys need it to come out, which is the day that the game's released.
It can be out whenever you want it to be out, baby.
No, that's awesome. True. I've got the weekend to cut this together. It's fine. We'll make it work. But anyway, to start things off, because I think I know a little about this, but not the whole story for sure. RBA is Rightfully Beary Arms, probably RBA for most of this conversation, is a 2D twin stick shooter available on Steam now in early access, and I guess as of the time you're recording this in 1.0, and available on Xbox as well. When did you guys first start building the game, and why did you decide to make a twin stick shooter?
This started maybe back in 2018, 2019. I forget exactly where, and it was more, I would say, closer to like a Binding of Isaac clone at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, like you would go into a room and the camera would like move and then lock to the room.
Okay.
And the room size was about the size of the camera.
Yep.
Yeah, just a screen sized basically.
Exactly, yeah. And so the idea was like, let's do some stuff with like that Binding of Isaac does, but make it more twin stick, like Nuclear Throne, Enter the Gungeon, games like that. And then like slowly over the time, it turned into, I feel like its own visual identity. We kind of made it like a 2.5D, 3D, like 2D sprites in a 3D world. Yeah, and we wanted to do like a twin stick shooter just because those were like fun genres for us. They're fun to design. Roguelites are really fun to create and design, to kind of iterate through and try different ideas. And yeah, when players try certain stuff, it can just restart and then try over. And that's actually really fun to design for. So.
No, that's pretty cool. And as far as like genre stuff goes, that's kind of what I was more curious about, because I feel like for games of the scale that we're all kind of making them at, it has to be some combination of like a thing you're really enthusiastic about and a thing you can achieve, like a thing you think you can execute on. So I was just curious what the ratio seemed like it was for you guys on that front.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty balanced ratio, but like the roguelite in general, roguelite genre was absolutely targeted just because of the design philosophy for us was to get a lot of player feedback, and going into EA was part of that choice. And we didn't want to necessarily like spoil the experience for players in the EA. So that's all part of the roguelite experience, is to just keep playing it over and over again. And so we didn't feel like it would be spoiled too much. Like if we went super narrative and I don't know, like a story, a choices matter sort of thing, linear, if we released an EA to get player feedback, then those players would probably finish the game and then be done with it and move on. So
that's really smart, because again, that's like for similar reasons. That's one of the reasons I ruled out, like when we decided we were building like a roadmap to launched Cucumber in, I was like, well, I really don't want to do early access because our game is kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily narrative focused, but it is a linear platformer with like fixed levels, and so I feel like if you feed a game like that to the general public and they play it from start to finish a bunch, like they're going to be way less interested in the final thing when the time it's out the door.
That's why I do think I don't remember if it was early access or not, but like the first playable demo of like Undertale was a like tiny like the beginning part of the game,
the intro.
and it stopped.
Yeah.
So people could play that and like get familiar. Like it was a really good sampler platter basically of everything the game was going to do without what the game was really going to do, which was like such a smart thing to do.
That's such a crazy thing for like Undertale, right? Because there's like so much in that.
Yeah.
So I've never played that like demo chunk of the game,
well,
but
it's
I'd be
literally
very curious
just
to go back.
It's the runes. It's the first.
Yeah, like
it's literally the opening of the
runes.
game.
I'm assuming there are some changes, but for the most part, it is the intro.
Yeah, it's in the game as it is, but like that was the part, from my understanding, at least. I don't know if it was just for like the Kickstarter backers,
right,
or if there was like a wider release demo. I don't know.
Sure, no, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that makes sense, and that was one of the other things I was going to ask specifically about anyway. At what point did you guys, like during development, did you guys decide you were going to do early access? Was it like from the initial like, okay, we're workshopping this and we're going to definitely do EA at some point, or did you settle on that like a year or two in or something like that?
I think it was always destined for that, and maybe like officially made the decision later on, like closer to EA launch, but like I think we always kind of knew it. My background is like in more traditional software engineering, like building like software for, I don't know, different industries and customers, and it's like that's always a big part of that process is like getting actual feedback from customers.
Real users in there, not just like people who know what they're supposed to type when they're supposed to type it.
Exactly. And this was kind of our first trek into a more productionalized game. Like we did a lot of hobby game dev before, but this was like our first more polished game dev experience that we wanted. So I think EA was always like in the cards for us to transition to that and get player feedback and like make sure we're on the right track, because I knew that it was going to be a big task. I didn't quite know at the time it was going to be bigger than what I thought. But
yeah, we all find out at one point or other.
Up, kiddos.
Your first game is not small enough. I promise you, it won't ever be.
So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning process. I'm really glad we did it. I think there's like other avenues to capture that like early feedback, not necessarily through EA, but like it's just the most obvious and the most well known. So yeah.
And to some degree, the least intensive in terms of labor, I guess, depending on, because again, our plan for doing that was been just like take it on the road and chuck it in front of people, which is a very high labor version of doing that.
Yeah,
but it was like a lot of effort in terms of time and a medium amount of effort in terms of capital, but
Yeah.
But I do agree that like one way or another, you have to get your thing out in front of people well before it's like finished to learn what knobs you need to turn and which way you need to turn them.
Yeah, we learned so much. I mean, it's like little things to like what sound effects to use when. That can actually have a big impact on the game to, just like overhauling systems that kind of like defined our game itself. So like you said, Dustin, it's just like so important to get out there and get your game out there and in front of real people.
I can never, every time we bring it up, I can never overstate how important it is to just like let people who have no context for your thing lay hands on it and see like what they like, what they don't like, and what they understand and what is like completely confusing. To get into kind of like the team scope in general and to toss a thing to Garrett, at what point in the dev cycle did you get involved in RBA? And how did you meet everybody on the rest of the team?
It was kind of funny. I've been making music for all kinds of things for a few years since basically college, I guess. So graduated in 2016 and then been making music for things like local jingles for radio ads or TV or I don't know, like all kinds of random stuff. Eventually got into writing music for tabletop for my friends in our campaign. And then eventually started doing tabletop music for anybody who wanted it on the internet. And then I was like, oh, you know what, let me see what else I could do for games. And started getting into that scene more and doing a bunch of like game jams and started dipping my toes into work with devs. And then my first PAX that I ever went to was 2021, I think, maybe 2022. I don't even remember. Maybe Chris can verify. But yeah, then I was just kind of walking around and definitely ended up getting kind of drawn to games that looked interesting to me, and would just talk to people and kind of ask them about like how they spent their time on it and like what was interesting to them and things like that. And I wasn't really like looking for work or anything. I mean, I guess at the same time, like I always am, but like
yeah, you were, but you weren't there to network.
You weren't like you weren't pitching, like, you're right. You weren't flinging business cards around. You were just kind of there.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I wouldn't recommend that also. But yeah, I just started. I saw them in their game, and it was kind of funny because it was just like, I think there was a CRT there, or maybe you guys had like the arcade booth thing or something like booth, that.
Yeah.
And it was like an old version of the game. It might have been your first PAX, might have been your second. I don't remember.
Our first, for sure.
Yeah. And so I was just kind of like asking them about the game, and then honestly, I think like kind of mostly connected. We were like, oh, you guys are from here also. Like this is cool. Like I'm also from here, and you're like the first person that's not from Texas or something. And, like it was kind of nice, just kind of like chatting about that. And then Chris eventually asked me what I do. I was like, oh, I make music. And he said, oh, we actually need music. And I was like, okay. So then eventually, like a few months after PAX, we linked back up and talked about it. But it was kind of nice because like I was just getting into like Hades and that soundtrack and kind of how that music interacts with the game and how it keeps a vibe going, but also like changes a little bit when things are happening on the screen, and just seemed like kind of a fun challenge, which is always nice. But yeah, very like organic meeting, no cold calling on the internet or whatever.
Sure.
Just kind of seeing the thing they were working on and going, hey, this looks interesting to me. Like, tell me more about it. And, and then yeah, what year was that? Was that 2021 or 2022?
I think it was 22. Yeah,
that
just straight
sounds
good vibes
more correct.
from Garrett.
It happens sometimes,
I mean, that's like how we met. We were booth mates at MagFest 2024.
Yeah.
And it was just instant vibes. We were just like, because we did not cross paths at setup because we were there a little bit earlier than you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But like the first day of the show, like it was literally instant. We just kind of started like chatting, like, oh, kind of do like the song and dance of like, oh, what's your game about? And then just like very like naturally over that weekend, it was just like we're best friends now.
Yeah, Lorraine and I were just like silently suffering our social battery draining, and April and Dustin were just out there like
slinging.
Oh, community, everyone, hey.
That's right. Yeah. You gotta get people in there. You gotta get people sitting down playing.
Brought that energy into too many games that year.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing for me too, because I would still recommend, if you're like, again, not necessarily like as Garrett was kind of saying, don't necessarily go in just like
with
super aggressively
sell.
business card in hand, like, yeah, I'd like to do this, I want to work with you, give me a call. But I do think, in my opinion, I think it's better to meet people that you might want to collab with at like events in person if you can, than like just catching somebody on Blue Sky or Twitter or whatever. Just because like you
definitely
do get that chance to like more vibe check them for real.
Yeah.
As opposed to like it's just
so much,
the
online persona.
It's so much harder to understand who a person is from like just exchanging DMs or just like seeing their history of posts or whatever than like it is from having like a 5 to 10 minute conversation with them face to face.
Or even like if you have to do like maybe you meet up for a second, you get a better time to talk like on like a voice chat.
Yeah.
Like actually talking with them, not just exchanging messages. And I will also say, kind of on that note, I think the people I ignore the most after I've met them at a show are the people like hard pushing for me to like immediately work with them, because we've had that at many different forms at many different kinds of shows, and it's the most immediate turn off for me. I'm like, I am not interested in like anything you have to tell me, because you're making this exclusively about you, and you're here at my booth while I'm trying to do that. Like, I paid money to do this and you're doing it to me for free. Go away.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like coming from the music world, one of the most annoying things that I had to deal with trying to find work in that world is just like finding people that I just didn't want to be around and like didn't want to work with. Like, playing in a band and like going on the road and whatnot. It'd be like, oh, I see this band is doing pretty well. What if we tried to play a show with them? And then like I would reach out and I would realize these people don't connect with me at all. We're not playing the same kind of music or anything. Mm-hmm. And so, when I go to events and try to meet my community, I'm more just focused on like, who do I think is interesting and I kind of just want to be friends with and just start there. And I've kind of made a decent amount of friends in the community and haven't had work from them for years, but it's probably happened at least once, maybe more than once, where like 3 years into being friends with somebody, like, hey, I finally have a thing that I want to work on you with. And that's nice because, we can connect very well when we start to work together. And that's, it's just way better to just see who you want to be friends with, especially in like a community that's kind of arts focused like this.
Yeah.
Because, also another thing when I was kind of getting started with this community is like, I know what kind of games I like, but I was always like, oh, everyone here is, I don't know, into like Call of Duty and Fallout and all these games that I don't really play. And then I was like, oh, that's not true at all. Like, people like the games that they like, and they find other people that like those games too, and that's how they kind of make their connections and end up making a thing that's cool because they both like that thing or whatever. And yeah, it's just when I kind of like got over myself and was like, just find some friends. That's all you got to do. It was way more enjoyable being a part of the community, and yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of event stuff and like PAX specifically, I'm just curious if you think this is going to be your guys' final PAX showing RBA, and like how that process has evolved over time. Like how many total shows have you done? Because we're obviously super appreciative of you guys helped us prep for what was our first PAX last year.
Speaking of, like, this is PAX 2020, PAX East 2026 is the PAX that Dustin is referring to.
Coming up in a couple months in like late March.
Yeah, we'll be at this PAX and we'll be showing RBA there. Is it the final one? I don't know for RBA. The nice thing about PAX is like we live in the area, like Garrett was saying, and I kind of always like it's a lot easier for us to go to that, right? So I mean, it's just booth costs for us to get over. We don't really have to worry too much about like travel or hotel costs or anything like that. So I'd like to imagine we'll maybe be back in 2027, maybe showing something else. But yeah, I don't know. We'll be there for sure, 2026. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And in terms of talking about the team again more generally, because we've got the two of you here, obviously, but you also have April, who does a bunch of your biz dev stuff, and Mike, who he's basically just a programmer, right? Like he doesn't necessarily wear another hat.
Yeah, he does a lot of dev work. He more recently has been focusing a lot on porting.
Okay, yeah, I have a separate question about that we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, I was just curious how you guys felt in terms of workload, how the game came together, because I would say that like for what I would classify as like tiny size indies, which is probably like I'd put between like 1 and 5 people, you guys are technically on the larger end of that in terms of total like human contributors.
Yeah.
How do you feel that came together in terms of bodies? Like, was it about right? Would you have liked to have like 1 or 2 more people if you could have swung it? And like, what gaps would you fill? Like, what other disciplines or like broader disciplines would you like people to have if you thought you kind of needed more bodies to make this or like something else in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. The size of the team has always felt fairly right. I will say that like over time we've had to learn how to wear those different hats, and I think if I were to restart RBA now, I probably would have a bit more focus on different roles, and then like maybe have April and potentially Garrett and Mike focus on specific things and scope of the game. I think like one thing that maybe we're missing, which I've always wanted, is to have like potentially a writer on the team, like someone that can really capture certain narrative and get certain messages across. But I think at one point I was like really hoping for some type of UI designer. But I feel like maybe we just need to take the time to kind of like work through those pains and those and learn that a little bit better. But it's been like really cool because like someone like Garrett, he's such a, like an awesome contributor to the team, because like he comes in and he's like, yeah, I'll help out with music, and then like suddenly he's just like, oh, I can help out with like certain sound effects, and then he's all of a sudden coming to our PAX, and then he shows up to like our TMG. So it's like really cool to have someone like him on the team that, yeah, it just like helps. It helps to have people on the team that are just like so interested in different aspects of the gaming community and making a game. And that's like part of like having a tiny team. I think you'll need to have a collection of individuals that kind of like all those different parts of making a game. Can kind of suck to have to kind of burn that from time to time, but I think it's ultimately kind of fun to be able to dabble in all that different stuff. So
yeah, that's still one of my like it's become a more, I've thought about it more as we've gotten deeper into the stuff we've been working on, but one of the things I do love about indie stuff is that you get to touch everything.
Yeah.
But it, like you said, for writing and things like that, sometimes it can feel like a burden too. Because if we could slot in one more person, like I'd want like an April plus like social media. Like if I could have one other human being, I would love to have just like a dedicated biz dev social media manager type person.
Because that is not something either of us like doing.
Yeah, it's by far my least favorite part.
It is pulling teeth to remind me to like post stuff on social media with a cadence. I hate thinking about it.
Abel's incredible. Like it'll seriously take me so much mental energy to like set up a meeting with someone and like organize some type of community event or anything like that. And then like when it's available in her bandwidth to do it, and then I ask her to do it.
She crushes
she's
it.
like, oh yeah,
she's like,
yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, that's fine. And it's like just done and it's awesome. And she's like, there's just like it was like so easy for her to do.
And then she'll turn around and be like, oh, I'm not really part of the team. I'm like, April, shut up.
Yeah.
You're like, you would kill to have someone like you.
Right. Again, that's another. I've been super impressed by your guys' work ethic and like determination and stuff since basically the first time we met. But another part of that I think again that you guys have in your quiver that not a lot of people do, us included, is having someone on the ground doing stuff like that and keeping it front of mind because it's super important.
Yeah.
Especially on like these size teams. Like as you get bigger, obviously you're gonna have like a social
media
department.
Once
or
you're
whatever.
in like double digits plus, that's gonna be someone's job, like for real.
But like this size,
sure.
that's almost never there unless somebody like one of the devs is already just kind of like in that like mindset.
We were just talking about cons, and we kind of like went into this role about like commuting and stuff like that, and it just made me think about like when we first started attending cons. My primary goal for each one was like awareness, like get the game out there, get wish lists and stuff like that. And over time, my definition of success for cons changed drastically, and like April is like one of the reasons for that, where it wasn't just about that. Like that can be a big part of cons, is to kind of get awareness, but it's like one, and I think you, Lorraine and Dustin, you also brought this up, but like going on the road and like getting playtesters, like that's a big part of cons too. And then another big part of it for me and the value that I've seen in them is like the connections you make. So like, for example, we met you guys and we met Garrett, and we've met like so many other devs that can share different experiences and share different resources. And then we've met like certain like nonprofits that help boost our stuff. And it's like a really cool community, and having someone near your team that can like go out and like make those connections and is like really important. Yeah.
Especially someone who has the social battery to do it.
The social battery. Yeah.
To take it back to the game more specifically a little bit, I think the final product has a pretty solid loop. Like the length I think is about right for what those type of games usually are. Like at the progression curve, I think is pretty well tuned at this point. At what point during development did you guys lock in to like that scope? Has it been like a moving target from like start till now, or was there some definitive point where you're like, all right, I feel like this is about as much as we're gonna build, and now let's go build it?
Man, I feel like it was a bit of a mess, and like that's like one of the things that I wish I did like slightly differently with RBA with Mike, was to like try to maybe scope this in a little bit more sooner. I would say like the ultimate vision of RBA that exists today came into focus, I would say, not this last PAX, but the previous one for that. So that would have been like what, 2023, 2024.
Okay.
And we did the augmentation update. It was like the clause and pause update, and that's like we put a lot of work into the tutorial. Actually, April helped with that too. So yeah, she has like a background in like educational psychology, and she was like always sitting with players or even kids at cons and like working through the tutorial, and she like would notice things that like players didn't pick up and things like that, and so she would like bring that advice back to me, and we reworked the tutorial together. And it was like at that PAX that when we showed augmentations and the reworked tutorial that we like saw a lot of more player engagement. Players were playing longer. They were like coming over to us asking more questions about the game, things like that. So it was the augmentations that we added, and we also, I think, reduced the complexity. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the really, really old build of RBA, but we used to have this like navigation map.
Yeah,
I remember. I have nightmares about that map.
Yeah, I'm really sad it didn't get to work. That was like a quagmire that I wish that I could have gotten to work, but
I kind of liked it. it. Yeah.
I like the spirit of it, but it was so confusing. Like when I was trying to figure it out.
And this is for anyone listening who's like going for their first game, like, or making their first game, just like don't add too many complicated parts. I mean, like that was like one more system we added to the game on top of like it was being our first, like RBA was being our first professionally game made, that like we would need more time to have figured that out and get more feedback on like what players were confused about and how to teach certain things. And so we basically scrapped it, and like at the end of the level, instead of getting a map where you can decide where to go and there's like a lot of decisions you could make at that point in the old navigation screen, we just reduced it to basically 3 decisions. And it's like a text box that comes up and it says, hey, what would you like your next reward to be in the next dungeon? And it essentially captured the same thing. And I think Mike was the one that implemented that. But it like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like the great reduction update is like the way that I think about it. And that's like really when it started coming into focus of like, this is what the game is going to be, and we'll iterate on this, and then just get it polished for release. So yeah.
Again, I think that's the route you guys did was super smart. Like it was a good resource based place to slice, let's say. Because I think the game as it exists now is more straightforward and more understandable, which is good.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't think it loses a ton by losing that. Like you said, there is a version, like you could have gone back to the drawing board a couple of times and made it work.
Because it was very distinct. Like,
yeah.
It was something I don't think I'd really seen, especially in like a roguelike, particularly. Like a map like that isn't something, normally it's just kind of you just keep going.
Right.
Like, but it's a linear thing.
Yeah, but on top of all that, I also wouldn't say it was like essential to the thing, and so that's where I'm at. We're like, all right, well, everybody's got to make compromise at some point. Like at some point, if you're gonna ever ship a thing, you just have to choose like this is gonna be less than or different than it was envisioned 6 months ago.
Dustin's mindset is to kill literally everyone's darlings. He's here to kill them all. Yours, his, it doesn't matter. He's out there. He's like, oh, this isn't optimized. Cut it. Get it out. We're throwing it away.
But my point being that when those tough decisions have to be made, you just want to make sure you're not losing like the essence of the thing. Like you want to make sure you're not cutting stuff that feels intrinsic to the experience. Like, oh, the game is now less special like than it used to be because we cut this. And in my opinion, that change wasn't that kind of thing. Again, it would have been a nice to have, but not like a necessary to have.
2.0?
Yeah.
RBA 2.0?
Don't commit them to anything.
I love that point, though. That's a great point.
That's really awesome. And then, again, getting more into some stuff and the framing around the game. As far as kind of like the narrative sort of like framing device and all that stuff, was that always planned from the beginning as well? Or was that something that came online later just as you guys like finally stood up a playable thing and you were like, well, we should put something around this?
It was actually always loosely there. Like a lot of the game was based around a lot of the, I'll say, these ideas or adjacent to the narrative that's currently there. I think like at one point, without giving too much away, we wanted the game to be like in the mind of a child that's riding in the back seat of a car in a long trip, and they fell asleep and they're listening to the radio.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah, we didn't quite go that direction, but like I would say we like went sort of adjacent to that. I like how he did it. Actually, Garrett was speaking of like things that roles and kind of taking on more on an indie team. Garrett also helped with like the writing and was like part of that focus group. So that was cool to have someone else to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like if I'm working on music for something, I always start by just asking like a billion questions about the project, because like the goal is if Chris could write the music for this, what would it sound like? Or I guess Chris, Mike, and April, like everyone who's already on the team who's contributing, like if they could write the music for it, what would it sound like? Yeah, I think just in that kind of process of asking like why a teddy bear, like why this, like it kind of got Chris to like
figure out those answers.
Yeah, just like kind of affirm the questions that, or maybe the answers that he already was thinking about, which is honestly like pretty common when like I jump into projects. Like a lot of devs will be like, I guess kind of like in the David Lynch way, just like, oh yeah, this idea came to me. And then they like figure out why later. There is a reason to it, but it's just kind of ends up being retroactive. And first it's that kind of visceral, like I really want to make a game about a teddy bear with a gun. And then like eventually
It'd be like that sometimes.
like it's like, well, why this? And like you kind of answer those questions for yourself, and being part of that, just kind of like asking like, so you think like maybe this is why you want this, and kind of like seeing if I can do something fun with that in the music and stuff like that. It's always nice to kind of parse out those questions that somebody on the internet's probably going to ask you eventually anyway.
Yeah.
And specifically, I don't remember if I asked you this at PAX or not, but I want to commit it to the ages anyway. Whose idea was it originally to do kind of like the alternate versions of the level tracks in like certain quieter story moments? Because when that came online in whichever build I played it in, I was like, oh, that's awesome. That is such a good little touch. Like, it just feels so great when that happens.
It's funny. I was actually I was watching the guy who did the music for Bluey, his like studio tour.
Oh.
And in that he just is saying all the same things that I always say, which is basically like everything you write should have a melody. So like when I do music for games, a lot of times you'll hear composers say like, oh yeah, for this one game I ended up doing something simpler where it's just kind of like background,
ambience,
more vibe music, ambient kind of track. And my kind of thing has always been, no matter what it is, always try to put a melody in there, because if you are able to like take one moment and put it in another moment, that's like the thread that you have is kind of doing something like with the melody. And so from the beginning I was like, I gotta put melodies in everything, even if it's like combat stuff, where your brain can't really focus on a melody. It's like if it's there, then I'm able to do something again with it later. So I think that was definitely part of it, but also I think part of it is Chris always liked my original like iPhone demo that I had of the main theme, which was me like kind of figuring it out on piano. And he was like, yeah, I want that to come back somewhere. And I think that kind of definitely informed those moments too, like kind of taking what I already had and just stripping it down to piano and like maybe one or two other things.
If the main theme is like the title screen music, like that does live in my head like at all times, like partially because of being next to you guys at like conventions, like just hearing like, but it is really good. It is it is a piece of music I do really enjoy, because it's so like, I feel like it fits the vibe of the game so well. Like it is so perfectly tuned to like the whimsicalness, but also like it's a little scary. Like there's a little bit of like kind of like you don't feel completely right. Like you feel like, oh yeah, like I understand this, but also like there's more depth to it than you think, which I think encapsulates RBA very well.
That's nice. I'm glad, because it's definitely when you are trying to collaborate with a project that already exists and already has a lot of depth and character, it's like you definitely gotta pay respect to that. You can't just like say, oh yeah, I should do this, and not even like listen to like why everyone is doing what they're doing with the project. And I will say also like a big inspiration for the music was definitely Jess's artwork, the key art for it. I think that was pretty major, because I think I hopped on like, because you guys didn't have that for PAX, but the PAX that I went to,
no,
I think
like not yet.
Just before I jumped in, you had gotten the key art done.
They pair really well
like
together.
Yeah, it was like happening at the same time that we were getting like key art updates from Jess, and then Garrett was like starting to ask questions, the questions that he would say that he would ask, and I feel like I was just feeding you like her like outlines and drawings and stuff like that, and then finally got to the final one. You're like, all right, this will work. It's like cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
I couldn't agree with you more in terms of like finding the kind of, like you said, finding the sort of emotional beats musically to try to push people into feeling the thing you want them to feel in a game sense too. Because that was still one of my more recent, for another game that I really loved, but the thing that stuck out to me that I couldn't quite jive with was like within the last 2 years, I think I played Tunic front to back, and I love that game to death. It is super cool. But I could not fuck with the music. And it's not that it was low quality necessarily, but it just doesn't pick up when I want it to pick up. Like that game from front to back is so like lo-fi beats to study to some degree, all the damn time. And even by the time like when there's certain combat encounters, or by the time you're even in the last boss fight, I'm like, give me something to go, man. Like, let's pick it the fuck up. And it just never does it.
That's true. Yeah, no, I do love that game, and I don't find myself like reaching for the soundtrack, because and maybe it's just a me problem, but I really do kind of find myself drawn to melodies, and yeah, there aren't a ton of melodies, if any, on that. And I totally get that it's going for like this. It's kind of like a dream of a retro game,
Right.
Yeah.
with the whole pages of the book that you have to find and whatnot.
Building the manual in the game.
Yeah. So like I get that the music is kind of it's not directly retro, but it's like it feels like you're trying to remember the soundtrack to a game that came out in like late 80s, early 90s or something like that. And so it's cool for that. But yeah, for me personally, I'm always just like really looking for melodies. And yeah.
Right. Again, we had in the last time we recorded, we kind of had a conversation sort of like this about Expedition 33 too, but it's just another one of those cases where like I don't think this was the wrong decision, but it's not the decision I would have made necessarily.
Yeah.
So as of listening to this, the game is officially out in 1.0 on PC and on Xbox for the first time. As far as the Xbox version went, what do you think the estimate was for like how many man hours it took to do that port? And do you think it came in do you feel like it came in above or below what you guys kind of estimated it out to be before you endeavored to put that port out at launch?
I'll be completely honest. I didn't touch much of the Xbox porting, thankfully. Most of Mike did that, and I have absolutely no idea what he did for the most part.
So he would be able to check in, but okay, I was just curious because that's another go ahead.
I will say this though, like we talked to other devs that we met at cons and we asked them about their experience supporting to Xbox and different consoles, and most, if not all, of the responses I can remember, they were just like, "Oh, it's a nightmare. They're gonna like dock you for this, dock you for that," because you have to like go through a certification process, and it's basically like a quality control to make sure that you meet like either Sony's or Nintendo's or Microsoft's quality to be on their store, and they want certain things from your game when you're on their platform. And so certification, they would always say, is like a pain because it's like they say expect 3 months for it to take, and then they're going to come back with like little gotchas that you're going to have to change, and that can, when you go to update it, that could mean that you have to rewrite certain parts of your game. Anyway, so I've got this like worked up in my head that this is going to be like a really long process, and we do our first submission, and I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks later we got the results back and it passed. So like we didn't even have to make any fixes or changes or anything like that. So whatever Mike did, he
worked out.
Killed it. So yeah.
Again, that's really good to hear, because those are like the big decisions you kind of have to make as a team this small, of like, all right, that's going to be a lot of somebody's effort.
Yeah.
It's going to be a pretty significant amount of our total bandwidth, so we need to be somewhat choosy about these battles and like when and where we choose to fight them. Again, another thing, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think you guys have taken this game pretty seriously in terms of doing your best to get marketing and exposure out for it, which I am still super impressed by. As to segue off of that, because this is a thing that I still don't know where we're at, so I want to ask for our benefit and for everybody else's benefit, just if you've been thinking about this at all, do you guys have any specific expectations of like what you would like the game to do going into 1.0 in terms of like units or money or whatever you'd be willing to or interested in talking about? Because I still don't know even what we want out of Cucumber, other than I hope some people play it. Is that a thing that you have thought about? Like, oh, this game, if we turn over this many copies in the first month, it'll be a roaring success, or otherwise, like, got to go back to the drawing board for the next thing or whatever.
Yeah, it's such a, man, I don't know. Like I've tried to like figure out this number. There's like a lot of resources on Steam that talk about, I think it's like whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head, but like whatever you make your first week, I think if you multiply that by 4, that's what
it's about what it's going to do.
You're going to make for the year or something like that. And I think that number may be changing just because of like how Steam is handling certain events now on the front page.
Sure.
You can constantly look for like Steam events, not necessarily sponsored by Valve themselves, but like other organizers. So we've had 2 that come to mind that were like really successful for us. Was Anthrofest, and we didn't really do much with that one other than just like apply and get in, and then Save and Sound, which I didn't have to do much, but Garrett did, and Garrett, and it was like a music based one, and maybe he could talk a little bit about after I finish this thought here, but he kind of like recorded some stuff for us, and it was more of like a music based, sound effects based Steam Fest, and it did pretty well. So like it seems like Steam is kind of like trying to expand out these like fests and these events that I think can then if you kind of stay on top of it with your game after launch, I could expect to see those numbers skewed over time, because you just apply for them and now you get more visibility and you can get more sales. So bringing it back to first day launch sales and first week launch sales for Steam, like I feel like if we can sell like 50 units on the first day, I'd be pretty ecstatic and happy. For Xbox, it's like, I think one, that we're kind of like under NDA to like talk about certain numbers that we get, and then two, yeah, and then like two, it's like there's not a lot of information out there on like what to do or what to get, so it's like it's hard. It's like it just feels like anything would be nice at this point.
Just play our game, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please get our game.
For sure. Garrett, did you have any other thoughts or feedback on that other event that Chris was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I had never seen anything like that before, but I thought it was pretty cool that it was like, basically the format of the event was all these games had either a live performance of a piece of music from the game or like a in-depth kind of like back-end review of what the soundtrack is doing or the sound effects are doing in a certain game. And it was pretty cool because like as we were watching it, like, you know, people were reacting to it, because I'm trying to remember, it was on like YouTube and Twitch and Steam all at the same time or something like that.
Yeah.
So people were live reacting, and it was cool because like these people were kind of interested in the process of how a game is made. And for the video that we did, it was performance of the Docks dungeon tune. And I'm in a band with some friends called Standby, and I had the bassist and drummer come by, and because the bassist played all over the whole soundtrack, and then the drummer played on this performance that we did, and it was cool because it was like he had like an electronic drum set, so I was able to get the same samples that I used for the original
so neat.
track.
Nice.
That's super sick.
Yeah, it was fun, and then like because it's a short song, I ended up doing like a discussion on it after that video, and people were kind of like into it with the reactions online. Like they're like, oh, I didn't think about that, and like, wow, that's such a good idea, or whatever, you know, random things. And it's kind of nice that I think video games are such a weird kind of media where people generally are very interested in how they're made compared to like other kinds of media, like, you know, TV shows and movies and books. Like people don't really kind of ask questions about how the ideas get created and whatnot, but video games, like everyone's always kind of trying to look into how something was created like that. And so kind of having these like deep dive videos as part of a festival is a cool idea that was a lot of fun, and definitely when you kind of give the people what they want, obviously it ends up being successful on our end, because, you know, we have a lot to talk about, and we're excited about the stuff we made, and I think people like to see that.
I do want to tie it back to the cons and back to having someone that kind of watches your community and having an April, but someone that can just help you kind of find these events. And we've connected with people in cons, like other dev teams that like share them. They say, hey, this popped up on my feed. Looks like your game, like RBA would be a great fit for this. And we try to do the same for them. Yeah. It's like so huge, because like those were our two biggest sales events under the EA title or EA launch. And I don't think we actively searched for them. I think we found them, or like they just kind of came across, and maybe one person saw for us. So like, I mean, once you launch a game, and not that I'm promising that it'll like, you know, sell millions, but, you know, if you keep your eye out for these events, you might as well just apply for them and throw it out there, because it's pretty minimal effort after you've made an entire game to to get it in there.
Filling out a form, a baby can do this.
Right. So it's important.
That's awesome. Something that's been in front of our minds recently. We're still trying to figure all that stuff out and decide where we want to go with things. And the thing that I'll still add that, like, again, has always been like a thing that I've thought is just one of the benefits of doing like a pretty tight self-published thing is like we have wiggle room on price, and we haven't put out like, you know, we're not in like $300,000 in expenditures necessarily, because I know that basically everybody kind of like just underwrites their own effort, right? Like if we summed up all the man hours at market rate, like this game probably Super Cucumber probably will have cost us between like $200,000 and $300,000 to make if we were getting paid like what we could have been making just by someone else putting the same amount of effort. But in terms of like
Opportunity
capital,
cost.
yeah. But in terms of capital expenditures, I've always tried to keep that stuff pretty tight, and I've always tried to tell people like, look, spend money that you have available. Like if you could spend that money on a Disney vacation or do this, that's fine. But if it's like, oh, I'm just gonna put $6,000 on the credit card. Like I would not advise people to go into debt to make their game, but
I mean, we're actually going to be giving that talk at our alma mater next week,
or two,
or like basically right after this goes out.
But
our business game dev talk.
But that stuff all affects like what you're ultimately like what you would want / need a thing to do anyway, right? Is if you do have put like 40 or 50 grand down in like total expenses, like you do probably kind of need it to perform to some degree, right?
Yeah.
So it's just it's wild out there.
Because at that point you strictly recoup, not just seeing what happens.
And again, just like for our first thing, just like for Down the Drain, for us it'll have been like, oh well, we learned a lot in the last thing, and so this game benefits from that, and then hopefully we'll make another thing after Cucumber, and like it'll have benefited, and you guys, whatever you guys make next, you have learned the lessons of RBA and apply them to the next thing, and so on. So that's part of the process too.
Yeah, I mean, it's so like I'm so eager to even apply some of those lessons that like April and I and Garrett too. We joined a game jam even recently, and it's just like I need to try this stuff out. I need to make sure that my theory holds and it works, and I'm excited to try the next thing. So that's all I'm trying to say.
That's so awesome. I have a couple questions on that. Before that, what is the future of RBA post-launch? Knowing that this is in fact coming out on Tuesday, the day that the game releases. What are your plans for potentially taking the game to other platforms in the future?
Well, great question, Dustin.
So natural.
We did get accepted to PlayStation 5 and there it is, and the Switch. Switch is probably our most requested platform, so it's like very exciting to bring RBA to that. And to like piggyback off your like past comment about taking these learnings, it's nice knowing that we can be able to port a game that we're already comfortable with, and then immediately we can work on another project, and then we'll know how to work in the Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft ecosystem. So yeah, it'll be easier the next time. Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, expect I guess we'll be coming to PlayStation and Switch sometime 2026. We don't have an exact date yet, but yeah, we'll probably push out like an update or two around that time and give it kind of like a relaunch in a sense, a new content polish and stuff like that.
Little tweaks here, there, stuff like that. That's awesome.
So exciting.
Yeah, and I know we've kind of like chatted about this a little bit separately because it's been front of mind to you recently. But what are your like kind of greater feelings so far on shipping your first game after all these years of working on it? Because I know for us it's been like a roller coaster of like from Down the Drain through today. It was a roller coaster of like excitement, depression, and then like satisfaction. For me, in that order of like, I was like, oh my god, we're finally doing a thing, it's finally coming out, and then it came out and it didn't do crazy numbers, and I was like, well, all the dreams of being financially secure from this, or like it just like catching fire, are basically out the window. But then after the fact, it was just like, but hey, we did ship a thing, and like we got all this knowledge, like we're so much more well prepared to do better on the next thing, and like so by the time it was all said and done, I was just like, good for us, man.
I don't know if Garrett's heard my existential dread around this yet, and I'm so curious actually to hear his opinion, because I wonder if it's the same like creating music and then releasing it as game dev. I would assume that there's like overlaps, but I could totally imagine there being differences. But yeah, it's such a weird feeling. Like I said, we started this maybe like 2018, 2019, and I think I've like worked on RBA. I was just actually telling Garrett this the other day, like in some capacity, like every single day, probably since like 2020 at least. Maybe not so much 2018, 2019. It was like a very much like I'll do a little coding now, and then like I forgot about it for a couple months and then go back to it. But yeah, like 2020 came around, we were locked in our house and during COVID, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start taking this more seriously. But yeah, it's like suddenly you're just at you're nearing the cliff, and like this, it's been close to 5 years of just being like, yeah, that's so far away, that's so far away, then suddenly the road is ending.
Suddenly you're watching your son Barry go up to get his high school diploma, and you're like, what happened?
What did I do with my life? Like, what did all the ideas that I had for this game I didn't do, and all the the stuff that I wanted to implement and didn't get around to it. And it's such a weird feeling. Like I would say, like right now I'm in a state of like panic. I don't know what the word is, but like ultimately, like you were saying, Dustin, it's like I am so proud of what we were able to put together and like what my contribution was to it. And I think I will feel that after the release, but like right now I'm like terrified.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know. It's such a weird oscillation, because like I'll have moments of just like absolute like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome, and then just quickly whiplash to like, I am the dumbest human alive. Why did I like put any time into this, and why did I put so much time and effort, and why did I get my friends involved in it, and like
have
they
ruined
all
their
hate
lives.
me,
Oh
and,
no.
meanwhile they just like they're like, oh yeah, when's RBA launching, and they like already forgot about it, and they're like not in a bad way, but just like it's just not top of mind to them.
Oh
and,
yeah, you know, people have other shit going on.
You're just out here
no,
panicking.
for sure.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I was joking with someone recently that I'm gonna like start a support group for devs that just launched titles.
Postpartum.
And, yeah, like postpartum like launch group or something, and see how that goes. But yeah, anyway, I've been talking way too much. What are your thoughts around it, Garrett?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny because with releasing music, to be completely frank, you're never planning on getting your money back.
Sure.
Like, yeah, I mean,
That's art, baby.
yeah, it's definitely the past, handful of years has been me kind of anticipating that, like, if I'm putting out music, it's for me first and foremost. And so yeah, that's been kind of freeing because I've been able to just like put out music more for fun. But yeah, no, I think back in 2018, 2019, I was putting out an album that I was definitely like putting a lot of faith in. And it is kind of tough to have that with something that like you created first and foremost for yourself. But yeah, I think relating that to how I feel about RBA right now, it's kind of like, yeah, I guess I haven't really thought too much about what I'm anticipating post release. I definitely hope that people connect with it. We've been getting some really energized people at cons, and so like seeing that be like slightly more widespread, particularly with like the new content, would be pretty nice to see, and I'm hopeful for that. So it'd be like a bummer if we don't really get any sort of reaction to that. Obviously, for me, I am less invested with the numbers side of it. I guess the one thing that would be kind of cool is I know how to make vinyl for like I know like who to go to and whatnot. So it'd be really nice to have a reason to make some vinyl for the soundtrack of the game.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so sick. That'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I was literally just bragging to a coworker today that you guys have your soundtrack on cassette, because she really like she collects cassettes. Like that's something she do. She's like, oh, if I was doing video games, she's like, I would absolutely find a way to get a soundtrack on cassette.
Yeah, that's they're fun. I'm
help.
super into that. But yeah, it's I definitely really love, for some reason, like that was a fixation of mine when I was like very young, just merchandise. Like I don't know why, I just always loved packaging and like making things look cool. In high school, I made some CDs of my like personal music and would sell them to classmates, and I would
that's
like
fun.
I would wrap them with like saran wrap and then blow them with a hairdryer so that they're like shrink wrap.
Shrink wrapped, yeah.
That was like so major to me. I was like, this is so cool. Like it's like a real thing right now. And so I think if there's a way to like an avenue to explore any physical media with the game, I'm always really into that. Just like I love all like the collectible versions of things where it's they kind of ball out with getting commissioned art that's like slightly different than the key art. No offense, I mean obviously like Jess's stuff is cool, but like just the idea of kind of like doing these very specific things for one type of physical release or whatever. I always having an excuse to do that kind of stuff would be kind of cool. But otherwise, like emotionally, I haven't been invested as long as Chris and April and Mike, so it's like I don't know if I'm as afraid.
So you'll find out, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it is something. Yeah, I'm thinking mostly about like I hope people connect with it. Like I hope people give it the time of day to connect with it.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot to connect with. I guess that's the biggest bummer about releasing art is it always feels like there is someone that should put it into people's hands that will connect with it because it's a thing that people are capable of connecting with because it has so much to it. But sometimes it's like, how do you find that person who could put it in their hands?
Oh yeah.
And so I hope it gets there because like I know it's capable.
For sure. I mean, you want just somebody to feel some kind of way about it. Again, I'd rather have somebody like try a thing that I made and hate it than not acknowledge its existence at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, that's true. Because I mean, it's especially like the thing that I always look for in like working on projects, whether it be like my own thing or collaborating with somebody else, is like I really like when something is kind of specific to the person that's making it. Like it's something that they would like to play, or if it's music, if someone's making something that that person would like to listen to, that just means there are bound to be other people that are like them,
right,
who also would enjoy that thing. So yeah, this is definitely a project where like immediately it's kind of captivating with how ridiculous or fun or all the things about it are very captivating. So like I think it's I kind of want to just see what people think of that.
I mean, people just have to look at Raincoat Barry and they'll get it. Like they just have to see him and they'll understand. They're like, oh, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. Because that's
like that movie scene moment where their like eyes dilate.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, because I do spend a lot of time thinking about like other creative mediums versus video games, and like, man, it would be so much easier to do some other things sometimes. Because like music fundamentally, right, like at its core is about tension and release, right? And like I think that there to some degree that applies to creating anything. And like in my mind, the complete opposite of video games is kind of like cooking. Of like, oh, you can spend an hour or two, making a dish, and then you try it, and then you've completed the whole creative cycle. You're like, oh, I made a thing, I tested it, we consumed it, and I know what I liked or disliked about it, like within an afternoon.
Yeah.
And games are just so complicated. The tension period is so long, where it's like, all right, well, it's been 6 years. Then like I feel like it's hard as the person who put that time in on the creative side. It's hard to find the satisfaction in the release because the tension was so like there's just it's so complicated. There's so much that has to get done, and then like by the time it's out there, you're like, damn, that was it, huh?
That was it.
But it's that's the price we pay, I suppose, for working in this medium.
I was just talking to someone the other day about Limbo's release. I don't know if you guys heard that, but yeah, Limbo, that like black and white sort of platformer.
Terrifying. I hated it. It was too scary. Legitimately, I did not like it.
I would say the general reception of that game was very positive, but when it came out, people were like, yeah, this is a great game. And like critic reviews, they're like, this is a great game, but it's so short. It's like 4 hours long or something like that. And it's like, I don't know, what do you guys want? Like it's either a great experience or not. Like it's okay that it was 4 hours, I guess.
Every game
I don't know.
has to be infinite.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's not worth it.
It's such a weird media, even just from not just like the point you were talking about where you're the creating side of it, but even the consumption side of it.
Oh, for sure.
People have such different metrics for what makes a good game.
Yeah. And I could go, this is a totally separate podcast. We're not going to go on this tangent necessarily right now, but I do have like tremendous beef with people who quote unquote criticize games, and that like to this day, after all decades later, I still feel like people are still completely locked in of like, oh, it's either good or bad. Like they don't want to necessarily analyze what was more interesting or less interesting about it, what worked well and what worked less well. It's just about like, oh, yay or nay.
Yeah.
Everything is black and white.
Yep.
I have two more things, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Now that RBA is winding down, do you guys have any thoughts on what you might do next? Like, do you have a genre you think you might want to tackle? Do you have like a narrative thread you think you might want to pull, or is it too early to know any of that? Like, what the next thing might start as?
It's funny you ask, because I've got a list of like 4 or 5 different ideas, and I've fleshed them out to different details, level of details, and I'm gonna try to grab some of Garrett's April and Mike's time at some point rather soon here and try to figure out what we kind of want to do. I don't have a specific genre, that's for sure. Fairly open to exploring genre and mechanics. Like, I don't want to necessarily be a studio that, like, all respect to like Telltale games, but it's like that's like who I think of. Like, they just made
like, more of the same thing in slightly different shapes.
No, I totally
exactly.
Totally get it.
And like, I love Telltale games. I need to put that out there. I love that, but I don't necessarily want to be someone like that. You know, I want us to be able to come out with a super serious game or a super goofy mechanic wise or not. So yeah, I've got but what I do want us to focus on is, like, back to one of your first questions and conversation points, is just like, I think I have a decent idea of like the scope and roles of our team, and I have a good idea of what we can create in maybe in a bit of a faster time frame.
Well, you can slot those like skill sets into to best utilize them right out the gate.
Make the most use, the best use of everyone's skill set in time.
Yeah, and then I hope that makes a better product for that you know, that we're proud of, and not that we're not proud of RBA, but just like reducing
the like drag time of like trying to like
again,
put everyone in their
it's just
slots
like it's
where
just
they,
all
like,
about
work best.
pulling levers, right? You can either make a game that's just as good as RBA in less time, hopefully, or a game that's even better than RBA in the same amount of time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the very last question, which you did touch on this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Right now, I know we've talked about a million things already, but as kind of a closer here, do you have any advice for people working on indie stuff right now? Is there something about RBA or the process of making it that you think people should emulate, or is there anything that in this moment right now you kind of regret doing that you think they should avoid? Is there anything like that kind of sticks out to you?
Garrett mentioned, I think, something to this effect, but it's like, and maybe it was more about music, but I think the same applies to game dev. Like, you've got to love I think you have to love the process of it, and that's something I've fallen more in love with along with RBA, is like appreciating like the design that goes into games and like how to communicate things to players. What is fun? What isn't fun? And sometimes you have an idea or a mechanic and it might not be fun, and that's okay. It's like try to figure out how to work it into your game. And like, I don't know, that puzzle solving for me is like a lot of fun to do. If there's a certain message I want to express, like, how do I express that through the game? So anyway, long story short on that point, like, I feel like you have to love it. And then the second point that I think I've literally talked about with every single question is like the scope of the game needs to be like really tight. Don't do an RPG game for your first game. Probably don't do a multiplayer game for your first game. Like, you know, do something small. I've been finding a lot of value in game jams, not necessarily because of like the crunch of it. I don't necessarily like that aspect of it, but if you can block off a month or a weekend and be like, at the end of this time frame, I'm going to ship something. It might not be super polished. It might not be even quote unquote done. But like, I think going through that process is really important, because then you find out what was difficult for you. What is that subject that you need to like maybe learn a little bit more about? What's that core mechanic that you were able to find within that short time frame that is fun? And like, how do you multiply it? How do you get that? How do you scale it up so that you can get more of it in your game? And that's I would say is like my advice for future game devs.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially because like, depending on if you're just starting out, for sure, I think it even makes more sense than anything, because it's like, because you get to simulate the problem we talked about earlier. You get to simulate that tension and release cycle. You're gonna have a chunk of it right there, because like the jam's gonna end. You're gonna have to ship the thing, and then it's gonna be done.
Sure.
And if you truly like, if you're not dead set, like if you're like in the mindset of, I'd like to make games, but I don't really know what I want to work on. If you do a game jam thing or two, you'll get the chance to try stuff out and learn in real time. Just like, I made that thing in 2 weeks. I either like it enough that I want to make a more elaborate version of it, or I was put off enough by it that I want to try something else.
So like I've said it before, like with my software engineering background, I tend to get bogged down in like implementation details. So this is maybe for people that can relate to this. And I will, when I dive into a project, I'll like really try to focus hard on like how to build the thing, right? And I think I lost focus in the beginning of RBA about the design of it and like connecting back to the player. And I've given recent advice to some people that are just like, well, I don't really know how to code, or like I have no idea where to start. And it's like, I think making a game, you can make a game with whatever you want. It could be a piece of paper, it could be like a board game that you make at home, it could be a tabletop with your friends. But like once you get that idea out in the world and you're playing it with somebody else, you can learn programming, or you can learn how to code, elsewhere. It's I think kind of special and kind of hard to learn what's fun with people and in like a social setting or in a controller setting, stuff like that.
Well said. And yeah, with all that said, I think that's good. If you guys have no other dangling thoughts, I think we may just call it a show.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I was going to say is, I don't meet a lot of devs who are as good at taking feedback as Chris and Mike. That's kind of huge, is being able to put something out in the world and then have someone say, I see what you're doing, but I think it'd be better if you did this, and like actually listen to that and do something with it. And I will say, like, it's not even just that they do something with the feedback, but they also know how to parse through feedback and know like what is something to take seriously and what's something that might just be like a certain player's opinion that maybe this just isn't the game they're looking to play. Because you get a lot of different kinds of opinions, but being able to know who you're talking to, like know who's playing the game, and hear their feedback and do something with it is a really useful thing to make something that is going to connect with a lot of people. Because if you hold yourself like such a high opinion of yourself that like you don't want to take any of that in, and you just kind of think that you already have the perfect thing, then it's there's nowhere to go. Like, why even show it to people at that point? And so I think that's kind of the biggest lesson that I kind of had from this experience, because I've never obviously had to deal with that with music, because you're not always looking for opinions on music. You're mostly just like,
here it is.
It's kind of just like ends up being like a thing you wanted to try, figuring out. And once you hear it, you're like, okay, I figured it out. And like you put it out in the world, and people either like it or they don't. And you're not really looking to change it much at that point. But with a game, it is like it's the art of agency. And if you're not connecting with people, how can you kind of decide how your art is working on that level if you're not taking their feedback into consideration? And it's very hard to find teams where the devs are as energized to get that feedback.
I think that's awesome. Very well said. And yeah, with that, I think we will wrap it up with, we'll have you guys plug some stuff, and then we will call it a show. So firstly, Garrett, where can people find your stuff, be it the RBA soundtrack or just like other stuff you have worked on? Where would you send people to check out your body of work?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you Google my name, Garrett Rose, and then put music after it, you'll probably find mostly everything. My website is just garrettrose.com. It's 2 R's and 2 T's. And then, I'm also on streaming services for the RBA soundtrack. And then my band that I do other music for is called Standby. Yeah, I guess I'm mostly on kind of Instagram these days. I don't really use the Twitter or the Twitter likes. But so Instagram, streaming services, and
And Chris, now that RBA is in fact out today, Tuesday, the day this podcast is going up, where can people go to find the game, purchase it, and follow you guys for future announcements of stuff you might be working on?
Yeah, check us out on Steam, on Xbox. If you go to rbagame.com, we'll have links to everything there, like our socials. I even think we link out to Garrett's Spotify page for the soundtrack under the socials page, so you can also check it out there. We're on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, though I think we're kind of slowly moving away from Twitter. And I think that's about it. Yeah, so... yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much for making the time. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to cutting this together later. It's always a pleasure to hang out with y'all.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that'll be a show. If you want to support us in any way, if you want to hear us yap about more stuff, can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and most other places where podcasts are found.
True.
You can wishlist the game we're working on called Super Cucumber on Steam right now. And if you go to the bottom of that page and click the Discord link, you can jump into our Discord and pitch us games, chat about stuff, try builds of our thing.
It's so much fun.
and you can see us all potentially at PAX East in a month or two here. So if you're going to be in Boston in late March, come say hello. We'll be around. So yeah, I think that's actually going to do it. Thank you, Lorraine, again as always for hanging out.
The least interesting part of this podcast. Crushing it.
A glowing presence, to be sure. And yeah,
at least you mean most.
And Chris and Garrett, thank you guys so much,
thank you so much
for making the time and coming on and talking about RBA. I'm so excited for y'all.
So
it's going to be so fucking cool. And I will be buying my additional Xbox copy on Tuesday.
Nice.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you anybody out there who's listening. Sit tight, stay safe. And yeah, be on the lookout for more podcasts with us yapping about video games in a couple of weeks. So until then, we will see you next time.
Bye.